Hi, it's Nick Warburton, ImproveMyMindset.com, and in this video I want to talk about the ripple effect. Now, this is quite an emotive video because recently I had to step in and do a rapid intervention where a friend's child was traumatic, and yet it wasn't her fault. The child is 12 years old, and 12 years old, you're going through all kinds of things in your life, especially for a young lady. So all the chemicals are changing in your body, the hormones are racing around, so there's enough going on. And then you've got school and your home life and so on. But this young lady had a friend, and this friend, who is also 12 years old, was self-harming and also talking about committing suicide. So there's a whole issue going on with that child there in itself. To then be passing it over to her friend and actually playing with it and saying awful things, like, I'm going to kill you if you don't do something about it. I'm going to kill myself. All these threats were coming across, and they were coming across via social media. So things don't just happen at school. From my era and possibly yours, there were no phones. And so if bullying took place, it normally took place in the playground within the school hours. You came out of school, and if you're lucky, you went home and that was it. And then it might start again as you go back to school. The problem is now with social media, it's 24/7. So anybody can access somebody else and create pain and trauma. And so that's where the ripple effect happens, because although this particular child is obviously going through a difficult time, then sends that out and plays on it to other people, because obviously it's an attention-seeking design that, by saying, I'm going to kill myself, she gets attention, or I'm going to come and kill you if you don't do X, Y, and Z. So there's now bullying taking place. And when it's happening across the phone as well, then effectively it's cyberbullying. This poor kid was in tears and not knowing what to do. So I'm having a conversation, and I'm doing it via a Skype call, and I'm explaining what's happening and what's going on. I'm having to educate her to realise that this person is playing a game. And it took a lot of work and a lot of effort to calm the child down. And to be honest, she was brilliant. And I've worked with children before, and children are really good to work with because they absorb what you talk about. When I was educating her and telling her why this person was doing what they were doing, and to explain, it's not your fault. This is somebody playing a game with you, and it's unfair and it's not right and it's actually bullying. Then once you make that aware to children, then they see it differently. It's no different to when I work with other people. I educate. It's not just therapy, it's education. So you understand what's happening, and therefore it'll make a lot more sense to you. And so we reduce the chance of anything happening ever again. So this young lady has done brilliantly well, and we're ending up that we're having giggles and things are lighter, and I taught her how to relax, and so she's going to be able to go to sleep, because she is fearing going to sleep in case this person came and killed her in her sleep. That's how much effect this person had had. Now, with the other child, the one that's talking about suicide, who is actually self-harming as well, that's a whole separate case. And so the CAMS will be involved now, and the system will take over and do whatever's needed with that child. And hopefully things will happen quickly and the right things will be done. I can't comment on that. But with the child I'm working with, to see the ripple effect, how what one person is doing comes out and affects the other person to the point that they're traumatized. What I'm trying to say to you is, if you have your own children, just be aware of what may be going on in the background. If they're quiet, if they're becoming a little reserved, or their behavior is different, that they might be keeping something bottled up within. And, it could be an extreme stress. The problem is what will happen is that will grow and that can become a trauma in that person. So not only it happened in the first person, they've passed it on to the second, and hence the ripple effect. So be aware of social media. How much is your child using the phone? Because every child has a phone now. I think they said from 7 years old, 50% of children now have a phone. So, are you aware what's going on? The school may not be aware of what's going on. So it's up to us as adults and as parents and as educators to be vigilant in what's happening. If you suspect something's happening, then, okay, the next question is, what do you do? And the first thing is talk. Talk to the child. Ask if anything's going on. And generally, they will eventually give up the information. If you have your suspicions that something's happening because they're not being themselves, then you need to find out why. If this situation that I was dealing with hadn't been dealt with quickly, can you imagine how this child would have felt if they were carrying that burden for days on end? Because very often somebody who's talking about suicide doesn't see it through. It's a useful threat because it gains attention. And when they're in that position, any attention is better than no attention. So they'll misbehave, they'll bully, they'll threaten people because it gets a reaction. Trauma for a child it's 10 times what it is in an adult, because timescales are different. When you used to wait for Christmas, it used to take forever. So with a child, if there's an event that occurs, and then there's a delay before there's any treatment or discussion or whatever, then that can seem like forever for the child. The level of understanding that they have is different to ours. So again, it can be 10 times what we would experience. And also, they're growing up, they're experiencing everything. Everything is new. And so, as I said, they're going through puberty, and so their hormones are changing. There's the stresses that you have at school naturally now, the SATs, the GCSEs, the tests in between, the lack of funding and making things difficult within a school. All these have a ripple effect on the child. So I ask you, keep an eye on children, keep an eye on social media. Yeah, it may make you a bad person for wanting to say, okay, what's going on in your phone? But there could be things happening. But also from that point of view that this other child that's going through their own trauma, other people need to be involved in putting that right. And so it could be that there's a point there where you can say, okay, although it's not my child, something needs to be said. And, is that going to be a discussion with the police? Is it a discussion with the parents of the other child? Is it the school that needs to be aware of it? Because things need to now be put in place to protect the original child. But we also need to put things in place to look after this child that's suffered the ripple effect. And what's happened to one child, that another child may be being played in the same way. So again, the ripple effect spreads outwards, just like dropping a stone in the water. You see the ripples go out, other people are affected. And it's always the same. Whatever happens with somebody with a trauma, it's not just them that suffers. It's the people around as well. Sometimes it's unintentional, because they'll think, well, if I keep it within, nobody will know about it, and so therefore it's just me suffering it. But then, of course, your character changes and you become more reserved, or you become moody, you snap at people. There's all sorts of different ways that people respond. But that has an effect on other people around them, whether it be family members, colleagues at work, friends, the general society around you, because you're just awful. It has a ripple effect. So please, make sure your children are okay. Even just the occasional talk to them, because it's very easy to assume everything's okay because nobody said anything. And I've heard that quite often when they say, well, how long has this trauma been going on? And they say, apparently it's been going on for years, but I never even knew. So have the conversations. Encourage them to say, look, it's okay to talk. And if you have a problem, say. And I always just say to my son, when he was growing up, you don't need to worry. It's my job as a parent to worry. You don't need to. Because children don't necessarily have a childhood anymore. They are born young adults and they have to just hit the ground running and learn to fend for themselves very quickly, get savvy to what's going on in the world very quickly. And really, that's not right. A child needs a childhood because that's where the imagination expands. That's where the brain becomes its own character. And that's where we have an array of people. Rather than having them programmed and conditioned and this is how you'll be and this is how the system operates you, let them become an individual. Let their character grow. But more than anything, make sure they're okay. So at the end of this story, just to say, there is kind of a happy ending. All the relevant services will go and look after the originator of the issue. My friend's child, she was brilliant when I spoke to her, became lighter. She now has tools in her toolbox to look after herself so she can de-stress, and also that she knows that she can talk to people and that what was being threatened to her is not going to happen. But also she now has the tools in the future to recognize how bullying works and how to not get involved in it. And that's something that I've taught for a long time. And it frustrates me because I can literally teach it in 5 minutes and I could stop bullying in schools and just wipe it out. So that's something for me and the future and a project I want to get involved in. But anyway, if you have anybody you need to chat with, talk. If I can be of assistance, with the tools I can teach to go in somebody's toolbox, if there is a trauma that needs dealing with and removing very quickly, I can do that as well. But don't try and sail the ship yourself. Realize that other people go through things as well, and you're not alone. And that was one thing that I had to explain to this child. And it's okay to talk. It's okay to not be okay and try and sort of keep all the feelings within, because that just makes it worse. You just bottle it up and then eventually it will all come out. And we don't want it to come out in a negative way. We want it to be a positive that, like I said, you've learned from it. It's now become a lesson. And so you'll now be a stronger person going forwards. So if you want to get in touch, then usual story, get in touch with me, improvemymindset.com. There's also some free resources there, so some videos that might be able to help as well. If you like what I said in this video, please like it, please share it so that other people can hear this as well. Because I want this message to get out to lots and lots of people. Because it's very easy to become a parent. It's not easy to be parenting. And I want people to realize what's available. There are systems in place that can sort things out very, very quickly. All right, there are people out there who can help. So please like, share, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks very much.